Welcome to tonight's story, where we explore the mysterious disappearance of the Tromp family, who vanished without a trace in August 2016. You step into the room, the dim light from the table lamp casting shadows over family photographs, moments of warmth and peace. The Tromp family, living in Victoria, Australia, on a small farm, seemed just like any other family. But then, suddenly, in August 2016, everything changed. No trace was left behind, no letters, no explanations. Mark and Jacoba, parents of 3 children, vanished without any warning. Their phones, credit cards, and passports were left behind in the house. Even their car showed no signs of being stolen. This family, once thought to be ordinary, had now become an unsolvable puzzle. Only unanswered questions remain. Why did they do this? Why would a normal family disappear without a trace? You begin to feel as though you're stepping into a bizarre story, one where the truth cannot be explained. The police have intervened, but up until now, they have found no answers to this mysterious disappearance. Imagine you are part of this case. Everything is happening quickly and unpredictably. Things we take for granted, like phones or passports, now become mysterious clues. They were a normal family. What could have caused them to leave without saying goodbye? As you read about this story, one thing is certain. You'll ask yourself, was this just an ordinary disappearance, or is there something hidden behind all of this? You can't help but wonder whether this is a simple event or something deeper that no one has recognized yet. The Tromp family had lived peacefully on their farm, with Mark and Jacoba caring for their children, while everything around them went on as usual. Although life seemed unremarkable, a major change occurred on August 29, 2016. This family suddenly left without offering any explanation. They left their house without taking necessary items like passports or credit cards. And the strangest part? They didn't leave any clue about why they disappeared. The next day, the family started leaving. Mitchell, the eldest son, was the first to go. He didn't continue the journey the family was on, but instead, he took a train back home. This was a very strange action for a family that was typically very close-knit. No one in the family thought Mitchell would do this. The police found traces of him, but everything was vague. This is where things began to get complicated and confusing. After Mitchell separated from the family, Ella and Rihanna continued the journey. They went to different areas, and their traces began to fade. Investigators couldn't verify where the family had passed through. What made them continue their journey without a clear destination? And why couldn't any one of them provide a reasonable explanation for this? A strange detail is that people in the towns the Tromp family visited said they felt something unusual about the family. What made the Tromp family seem so peculiar? You might notice signs of tension in the family, but you can't pinpoint the source. The real reason for their strange actions remains an unsolved question. After a few days, the Tromp family was found, but once again, things became even more unclear. No one in the family could explain why they had disappeared. Their testimonies didn't match, and investigators could only conduct interrogations without obtaining any specific information. Their story seemed to have no clear leads. Rihanna, the eldest daughter, was found in a panic, with no memory of the trip. This made you wonder, could the family have experienced some kind of psychological event they couldn't comprehend? Rihanna's strange actions only reinforced the theory that an external factor had affected this family. But one thing investigators couldn't explain was why no one remembered why they left. The odd thing is, when the family members were asked about their journey, each gave different answers. The police and psychological experts couldn't figure out a clear cause. The conflicting testimonies made it impossible to understand why everything happened the way it did. At this point, you start to wonder, did the family really know why they left, or were they simply acting on some unclear impulse? This story only makes you more bewildered. The Tromp family returned, but the mystery remains unresolved. Some theories suggest that the family might have experienced a collective delusion, but no one can explain it clearly. Could it be that an event in the past led them to act this way? Or could they have encountered some psychological factor that they themselves didn't even realize? And then you wonder, did the Tromp family truly know the reason they left? Could there be a hidden mystery behind this event? You can't help but wonder whether their strange behavior is a sign of a supernatural event or something deeper within their psychology that we cannot understand.
You enter the spacious room where family photos are dusted with time. Each photo captures a moment in the simple life of the Tromp family. But now, all that remains are questions with no answers. This family disappeared in August 2016, leaving behind a trail of strange and ambiguous signs. They didn't leave together, and no explanations have been given. The police initiated a wide search, but even when they found them, the Tromp family still couldn't explain their bizarre actions. The next day, the Tromp family split into two. Mitchell, the eldest son, left the family and took a different path. He didn't join the next part of their journey, and no one knew why. Mitchell's actions immediately caught attention. The reason he didn't continue with his family was hard to understand, but not long after, the two other children, Ella and Rihanna, continued on, not knowing what they were searching for, with no clear goal in mind. They simply drove, stopping at strange places with no plan. The traces of them slowly faded, with no specific clues about where they had gone. When the police began investigating, they noticed strange patterns in the Tromp family's behavior. Why didn't they stay in one place for long? Why did they separate with no clear reason? All these questions haunt you as you try to imagine their journey. They didn't just leave their home, they left behind a peaceful life, things that should have been irreplaceable in a family. But the question still lingers. What were they really searching for? On the third day after the Tromp family began their journey, Rihanna was found in a state of panic. She couldn't remember anything about what had happened. A strange detail is that during this time, there were no clear traces of the Tromp family on security cameras at the places they visited. They were like ghosts, leaving no trace in this world. So where did they go? Did they really pass through the places people thought they had been? Or is there some mysterious reason why those traces disappeared? This makes you start to doubt that perhaps the Tromp family wasn't just leaving home. They were running from something unseen, a threat that none of us can comprehend. You begin to wonder, were they running away from something invisible? Or were they simply searching for an answer for themselves without knowing what they were really looking for? When the police finally found the Tromp family, the story became even stranger. They had wandered through many places, but when asked about the reason, each person gave a different answer. Rihanna, in her panic, couldn't remember any details about the journey. She didn't know why they had left, and she couldn't explain why the family had acted in such a way. This not only confused the investigators, but also made you ask, how could a normal family forget why they left? Everything became hazy as their stories couldn't be connected. Mitchell, the eldest son, didn't continue the journey with the family, but when he was asked, he simply said that he couldn't remember why he had separated. This is really hard to understand, isn't it? What could the family have faced that all the three children couldn't remember? Could they have encountered an event that they themselves couldn't explain? Strangely, when the Tromp family was found, they didn't show signs of excessive anxiety or tension. But something still felt off. Do you feel like there is an event that the family members haven't remembered yet? Or was there some factor that made them act this way? Why did the Tromp family act like this? Several theories have been suggested, with the most common theory being that they might have gone through a form of collective delusion, where all the family members simultaneously had strange ideas, leading them to act without a clear reason. However, the odd thing is that none of the family members had any history of mental illness or psychological problems. So could this event be explained by something other than collective delusion? Another theory suggests that they might have encountered another psychological factor that no one in the family realized, or perhaps an event beyond their control led to these inexplicable actions. You wonder, did this family really understand what had happened to them, or was it simply a strange event that even they couldn't comprehend? No matter how it is explained, the question of why they left still remains, and no one can answer it satisfactorily.
When the Tromp family was found, you could sense a relief in the air. But at the same time, a strange feeling began to creep into your mind. They were not completely missing. They had returned safely. However, that peace didn't bring the answers you expected. The Tromp family had come back, but everything was far from what you had imagined. The members were found in a state of panic, but none of them could explain why they had left. Their testimonies didn't match, and there were no details to help investigators understand what had happened. Rihanna, the eldest daughter, was found in a mentally unstable state. She couldn't remember anything about her journey, the days spent wandering the roads. The strange thing was, not only did she forget the event itself, but she also had no sense of the panic that she had experienced. This makes you think. Could it be that the Tromp family had been affected by an uncontrollable factor that even they couldn't recognize? If so, what happened during those days that made them act this way? The police couldn't find signs of drug use or substances affecting their mental state, but you can't ignore the possibility that some psychological factor caused them to forget the journey they had been through. And then you ask yourself, could this memory loss be a symptom of some unexplainable psychological event? Just like in other crime stories, sometimes the people involved cannot recall the important events they experienced. You can't help but wonder if the Tromp family was truly affected to the point where they couldn't remember the reasons they left, or if some strange event had caused them to act this way. Another quirky detail is the actions of Mark and Jacoba, the parents. During the search, when they were found, they didn't show any signs of extreme stress, only a mild confusion. But they couldn't answer any questions convincingly. The interviews only clarified one thing: they couldn't remember why they left. Although they had returned and everything seemed normal, the inconsistencies in their statements made you feel that something wasn't quite right. The strange journey of the Tromp family became even more confusing when the members couldn't cooperate with the police to clarify everything. Rihanna and Ella, who continued their journey while Mitchell went back, each had different stories.
None of them could offer a reasonable explanation for their actions. What had happened during those days that they couldn't remember? The important details about the trip, the reasons they left home, were all obscured by disjointed pieces. As investigators worked tirelessly to unravel the case, the question kept haunting you. Could this memory loss be a sign of collective delusion? Or perhaps this amnesia was just part of something much larger, something no one in the family, or even we, could understand. Could they have been affected by a factor we cannot perceive? An unpredictable element that only the Tromp family could feel? You feel like you're stepping into a maze with no way out. The story becomes more complicated when no one in the family can provide clear answers. The interviews only make it clearer that the Tromp family couldn't remember why they left. Everything becomes harder to explain, and the question keeps rising within you. Could the Tromp family have encountered something unexplainable? Something they couldn't recognize that caused them to forget the reasons behind their actions? What makes you unable to stop thinking is that despite the family returning safely, their bizarre actions remain unexplained. Why is there such a huge contradiction? How could a normal family leave without remembering why they left? Could something from the past have caused them to act this way? And can we ever understand that? The confusion in this story continues to linger. Even though the Tromp family has returned, the mystery surrounding their actions is not easily erased. You begin to sense a painful truth. Despite their return, this story isn't over. The mystery of why they left is still there, waiting to be solved. Is it a mystery that we will never be able to touch?
As if the story wasn't complicated enough, psychological experts began offering intriguing yet bewildering theories about the Tromp family. Could they have gone through a collective delusion, a rare but real phenomenon where everyone in the family develops strange ideas about something, causing them to act in ways beyond their control? This is one of the most popular theories when everything becomes difficult to understand and cannot be explained through conventional means. But you can't help but wonder, could the Tromp family really have been affected by a collective delusion, or were they simply running from something they couldn't clearly identify? Collective delusion is a rare phenomenon, but can occur in stressful situations where a group of people shares common anxieties and fears, leading to actions that are impossible to explain. The signs of delusion can be vague and hard to recognize, but you begin to feel that the Tromp family may have been influenced by this. So if this was a case of collective delusion, what triggered it? And why did the whole family act this way with no clear reason? However, when investigators delved deeper into the family, they uncovered a puzzling detail. None of the Tromp family members had a history of mental illness. This is an important factor. People with a history of delusions or mental disorders often show clear signs before strange events like this occur. The Tromp family had no such signs beforehand. This makes you wonder, could they have encountered some external factor that they themselves didn't even realize? The ambiguity about whether the Tromp family was truly affected by a psychological condition only adds to the mystery. You can't help but feel that there is some truth hidden behind their actions. Could they have been influenced by something that we can't perceive? Or were they simply too stressed to maintain control? These questions linger in your mind as there are no clear answers. Why would a normal family act this way? Another theory suggests that the Tromp family might have experienced some supernatural influence, something beyond our understanding. You can sense an eerie fear in their actions as they left without leaving any trace behind. Could some force have made them act this way? Could some incomprehensible event cause them to lose control and forget the reason they left?
These questions only make the story more mysterious. The Tromp family showed no signs of using stimulants or medications, and every member had no history of serious mental illnesses. Yet their actions seemed like those of people affected by something they couldn't recognize. This makes you think, could the Tromp family have encountered an event they couldn't explain? Or was there some psychological event that made them act this way? One striking point in this journey is that Mark and Jacoba, the parents, showed no signs of excessive stress when asked about why they left. But it's their calmness that makes you feel something is off. No fear, no obvious anxiety, yet they still couldn't explain their actions. You wonder, could this be a sign that they're hiding something? Perhaps it was delusion that made the Tromp family act this way, but the problem is, if delusion was the cause, why did all the family members share such a strange idea, and why was no one the first to recognize this? Why couldn't they remember any specific reasons? Could it be that the Tromp family was truly deceived by their own thoughts? And then you begin to wonder if the Tromp family was truly trapped in a psychological maze they couldn't escape, or if those strange thoughts controlled their actions in a way they couldn't manage. Everything that can't be explained only adds to your confusion. Could they have been influenced not just by psychological factors, but by something supernatural that we cannot see? The strange signs in their journey make you doubt that there is something deeper behind their actions. This question remains, not only leaving you feeling bewildered, but also something that the police and psychological experts are still struggling to explain. The Tromp family, although they returned, still leave unanswered questions about their actions. You wonder if we will ever understand the truth, or if this story will always remain an unsolved mystery.
Although the Tromp family returned after a long period of disappearance, their story is far from over. The more authorities investigate, the more they are faced with an unending series of unanswered questions. The family returned safely, but everything surrounding this case became even more unclear than ever. The gaps in their testimonies and the inconsistencies in the details make you wonder if the truth is being hidden behind these strange actions. Rihanna, the eldest daughter, was the first to be found in a state of panic. She couldn't remember anything about her journey. When asked, she only responded with meaningless words, unable to connect the events. She didn't remember why she left, and that is one of the strangest aspects of the entire case. How could someone forget the reason for their actions, especially when it was such a significant decision as leaving with their entire family? The problem doesn't stop with Rihanna. When asked, Mark and Jacoba, the parents, also couldn't provide satisfactory answers. They said they couldn't remember why they left, but the way they spoke made you feel that something was off. There were no signs of fear or any obvious tension, just an odd sense of vagueness. This makes you wonder, could the Tromp family really have lost their memories, or are they hiding something they don't want to reveal? What makes it even more difficult to understand is that despite their return, the family still couldn't reconcile with what had happened. Everyone seemed to live in a different world where the events that occurred couldn't be connected together. Each family member had a different answer, and this only made the case more mysterious. Every truth was concealed in darkness, with no light to guide the way to the real reason behind their actions. The question still hangs in the air. Why did they act this way? The police continued to search, but the theories they proposed seemed unable to explain everything. Could the Tromp family have experienced a collective delusion? Or perhaps they encountered an event, something so inexplicable that even they couldn't remember it. All these are questions still left unanswered. One striking detail is the lack of answers from the Tromp family. They couldn't remember important events,
but there were no signs of delusion or anxiety in their eyes. No one in the family had a history of mental illness, and everything still seems like a puzzle we can't solve. This makes you wonder if there's something bizarre, perhaps a psychological or supernatural factor that affected this family which we can't recognize. Like a movie where all the details are hidden, this story continues to confuse you. The police may have found the family, but they couldn't uncover the real reason why they left. The interviews only added to the ambiguity. Everyone in the family insists they don't remember why, and yet those around them sense that something isn't quite right. I can't help but think of one final theory. Could it be that the Tromp family was led by an uncontrollable force, something they couldn't perceive? If so, what caused it, and why couldn't they remember the event? Each member of the family seems to hold a piece of the story, but no one can share the whole truth. Another peculiar detail that investigators discovered is that throughout their journey, the Tromp family left no clear traces behind. Security cameras in the areas they passed through didn't capture any images of them. This only deepens the mystery. Where did they really go? Or did they enter some space we cannot see? You wonder if we will ever know the truth behind this strange disappearance, or if this mystery will remain unsolved forever.
In the end, after all the unanswered questions and endless speculations, the Tromp family returned. Although they were found safe, the sense of mystery never faded. You feel as though this story hasn't truly come to an end. The family returned to their normal life, but there's something still hanging in the air, something that can't be explained. The questions about their strange actions continue to haunt you, and you wonder if there will ever be an official answer to all that happened. The interviews couldn't shed any light on why the family left. The family members, although back, still couldn't remember the reason they made that decision. The police continued searching, but the more they searched, the deeper they fell into a maze with no way out. The inconsistent testimonies, the unanswered questions, all only made the case more baffling. The Tromp family couldn't explain their disappearance. There were no clear signs of a psychological factor and no signs of outside intervention. The questions you and the investigators raised about why they left still had no answers. What's strange is that even when it all seemed to have ended, thoughts about this family still linger in your mind. Why did they leave without offering any explanation? Could it be that they truly encountered something strange, something no one could understand, and now they couldn't even remember? When you think about this story, you can't help but feel that something larger is hidden behind it. An unsolvable mystery, an event that even the people involved couldn't understand. You wonder, will the truth ever be revealed, or will it forever remain a mystery with no conclusion? Like psychological thrillers, the story of the Tromp family remains like a shadow hanging heavy in the heart of the listener. Could they have truly encountered something we can't see? And will the truth ever be exposed, or is there a reason they can't remember? Unanswered questions continue to linger. Even though the Tromp family returned, the fog in their story still persists. You can't stop thinking about them. The story, though it has ended in what seems to be a normal way, is part of something larger, an unsolvable mystery. And in the late hours, as you let your mind wander, you can't help but think about the Tromp family. Will the truth ever be answered? Will we ever know the reason they left? Or will this forever remain a puzzle unsolved? This mystery, like a thin mist, will always exist in the air, a part of an indelible memory. And when you ask yourself about the unsaid things, you'll realize that there are stories that, though they've ended, continue to linger in your mind, never truly leaving.